If you like drawing cards, this is the deck for you. Jewel Shops. Here we go. My last video, I did talk about getting 5th place in a challenge. This is the deck that I did it with, not the Grixis Breach deck that I showcased last time I was playing. But this deck is absolutely phenomenal to play, and you get to do all kinds of busted stuff, like play like 0-mana artifacts, Mishra's Workshop, so your land taps for a Black Lotus every single time, and then you get to draw a bunch of cards when the time comes. So yeah, I really enjoy this deck in general. Even though I'm not really a combo player, I'm more of a I guess fair Magic player for the most part. In Legacy, I play lands. In Vintage, I play really bad decks for the most part, but I do enjoy casting artifacts and POing them back to my hand. I currently have Esper PO built in paper, but at the moment I'm trying to find something that I think I'll enjoy a little bit more. I did choose a little bit safer hand here that allowed me to get mana underneath me, but also didn't have a jewel or a ring, so it didn't really go my way in terms of what I wanted these first couple turns, as you can see. Playing against a Luris blue black deck with Bowmasters, which doesn't typically lend itself to be very my deck doesn't lend itself to be very good against that particular playstyle, because the Bowmasters and I do focus on drawing a whole lot of cards in this deck. So now I'm having to play a little bit more patiently. I do have the Sink into Stupor, which is a phenomenal card added to this deck. I didn't play this deck before Sink into Stupor, so I don't really know how to compare the two. But its power level brought this deck's power level up quite a bit. Gave us more blue cards to pitch to force a will, as well as ways to handle Bowmasters in general, kind of thing, which is a really good thing to have. Repeal, like what you're seeing him or them play right now against me, knocking my mocks back with there being 2 Vaccine Baubles in play. It's kind of tough. The other thing that the deck does have is the Phyrexian Metamorphs, which allows us to copy Bowmasters if we need to, which is really nice, and we have an open spot here to do it because they're tapped out and there's 2 Vaccine Baubles on the battlefield. So we're able to at least copy their Bowmaster and kill their Bowmaster, and also set ourselves up to turn off their cantrips as well. But sometimes they have another Bowmaster to kill your Bowmaster, or Fatal Push to kill your guy. So they had both there, which makes it a little bit tougher for us. Something you do notice is I'm holding back my my Academy here because I don't want to. I didn't want to expose it to Wasteland, because they Wastelanded my shop already one time, and that kind of was not great. But here we have the opportunity to showcase the Sink into Stupor, bouncing that Bowmaster back to the hand, and then casting Tinker, being able to pick up a Lotus inside out of the deck, kind of thing. Didn't hit very well on it, but we do have the Vaccine Baubles to draw another card, find a PO, and now we can actually PO this back to our hand as well. So we don't have to worry about losing the jewel to the Orc army when it attacks. I guess they forgot they have their own Vaccine Bauble here. They cast their own Mox Pearl into it. We know they do have the Bowmaster in their hand, so we can't really just go right back into it with Jewel. We did pick up a Ancestral Recall as well. Decided to play Lodestone Golem to try and slow their mana down a little bit here, or I guess not mana, but maybe their board progression is what I'm looking for. But it also gives us a blocker to save our Karn as well. Right now the Vaccine Bauble's turned off, so they can't draw with that either, but we do sacrifice a Lodestone Golem just to get it off the battlefield. Play a Twister with the Bowmaster, which is pretty smart. They get to knock me for 7, take my Karn out, and they get a fresh 7. The downside of that is they didn't pick up another land, I guess, to get rid of their Vaccine Bauble. With the Vaccine Bauble being out, we can't play our 2 0-mana spells, but we did pick up Phyrexian Metamorph to copy their Bowmaster, and we have a PO in our hand as well to start drawing some cards and work through our deck. So it's always really fun when you start to get to do the PO and the Jewel thing and get that shot of card draw that we all love so much. PO here for 4. Just see what we can do here. And then we pick up a lot of mana with the Jewel, and we have double Phyrexian Metamorph as well. That does lend us to a spot to where we can really start putting some mana onto the battlefield and start drawing some cards. So we'll get this Jewel out first. Trying to keep a blue mana up in case we pick up another PO. We did find an Ancestral, which is great because we can Ancestral ourselves, and then we still have 2 Phyrexian Metamorphs to make more Lotuses. Or Jewels, I should say. I keep getting Jeweled Lotus and Coveted Jewel mixed up. But, looking through everything that I have and trying to decide how I want to play this. And my life is pretty low, so I can't really pay the 2 life for the Metamorphs. It's nice we picked up a ring. I do have to pay the 2 life here. I think I was just testing to see if I got to get away with not having to use, or with me having the ring if it's still loss of life, and yeah, it is because it's me causing it. So it's not protection from everything. Pick up a Tinker here. We don't have a key quite yet, but we can start working through it. I think I decided to go with another Jewel Lotus because I do have one more Phyrexian Metamorph. Of course, the 0 drops are dead in our hand. I believe I decide to... Oh, okay. Yeah, I bounce that back, and we have protection this turn as well. So not really too worried about a Bowmaster killing us. Just dump a whole bunch of lands and pass the turn. Something you don't typically want to do with Jewel. If they would have drawn a Time Walk with a Bowmaster, that would have been really hurtful for us, because they could have killed my guy and then stolen all my jewels the following turn with an attack step. Even though I have protection, I still lose the jewels. So, let's see what they have here. They let the Bauble go, which opens up my Force of Wills, which is absolutely fantastic. It doesn't help me that I had to get rid of all of my 0 drops. Fetch a Probe. Now they know what I'm working with here. Get another land. So their 7 wasn't nearly as good as my 7, which is a plus. I do have a Sink in the Stupor as well if I need to bounce another Bowmaster, if I want to draw some cards, which is always a positive. So 1 hit from the ring here. We don't have protection anymore, so we have to be careful with what we're doing. We do go ahead and play the Lodestone Golem, as it'll turn off a lot of their things, especially if they want to put a Bowmaster into play right now, which they decide they want to do. But we can use our Sink in the Stupor, bouncing that back to their hand, and then they can't cast it again because they don't have any additional mana. See a Force of Will here, more than likely. Yes, we do. Now we get to hard cast a Force of Will. Still holding up Force of Will again with a Phyrexian Metamorph to pitch if we need to. Spell Pierce easily paid for. All of that to get a Golem into play. Now we get to draw some cards off our ring, and we have to win here because the ring will kill us if we don't. So, copy the Jewel again. Find another Phyrexian Metamorph, which is nice. But we need a PO or something along those lines to really get this going. Trinisphere doesn't help us. We did pick up another Phyrexian Metamorph, which is great. So we can copy our Jewel again. Lots and lots of jewels. Find the Time Walk. That helps us quite a bit. And then we have a key to untap our ring. So I don't know why I decided to play the Trinisphere. Oh, that's right. The ring is only on 2, so it puts us to 1. But now we get to draw a whole bunch. And we have another ring to replace our ring so we don't die. That's a big plus. Secondary Jewel again. Find our Lotus, another Sink in the Stupor. So this game is pretty much wrapped up here. I'm looking for the time vault so I can work it out with the key. And then there's my ring. Now we find the time vault, but I don't think I have another key. I do have a PO though, so I can pick up my keys, which is great. My ring, get rid of that. And then I believe I PO back a key to be able to untap. I don't have very many. I don't have very many cards left in the deck, so I have to be careful. I passed the turn instead of POing back, but I do have double force of will. And we have to sink into Stupors as well, which is fantastic to just bounce their stuff back to their hand. And now we have unlimited turns. Not sure what they're tapping their mana for. I can't remember, but we definitely win from there. Only 5 cards left in the deck, but it definitely lets us complete this particular game. So, showing the power of drawing cards. Always love it. Alright, sideboarding, not very good at this. Like always, as you've seen in my previous videos, I just like to put cards in that I think are good and don't really know what to take out. I do bring in one Dismember because I guess that's the right thing to do. And here's a hand that plays a jewel, or not a jewel, but a ring, and it's not very good because I can't actually do that. This is a really good hand because I get to play out my 0 drops first, and then my Vexing Bauble, and that will protect me from here. So, depending on what they have, the nice thing about Vexing Bauble against these decks is it does force a counterspell out of their hand. They mulligan down to 4, so I wasn't too concerned. Pick up a land here, which makes it so much better for me. And then I get to play out my 0 drops, my Vexing Bauble, and the rest of my mana. So, again, chose a hand where I can protect myself from counterspells if the bauble resolves, and then I can draw into either a ring or a jewel. So that's the route I chose here. They've got a frog, which is good for them if they get another turn, but we pick up the time vault and easy peasy lemon squeezy. So that's something I miss out of some of my decks that I play, is just having the key vault and winning straight away. So on to game number 2. Match number 2, we've got a pretty good hand here that lets us play a jewel pretty quickly as long as there's no counter magic. So something about this deck that I try and do is play it, when I play the deck, I play it as if I'm playing against it. So I don't want to get my jewel Force of Willed or anything like that, because that's never fun, or my rings as well. So this gave me a backup having jewel and ring, able to kind of set the board up. Traditionally, these dredge decks do play Force of Vigors in their main, so I had to be very careful about which artifacts I put in play. I could take the chance of losing the Crypt and the key here. Putting the key out right then, though, allows me to tap that ring the following turn and definitely draw some extra cards, because I'll get to draw 2, then 3, so that's 5 cards I get to draw like right away. I do have the Time Walk in my hand. They only have 2 cards in theirs, so I can show Ancestral Recall first and see if I can get that to force, and if they force that, then I can definitely and Time Walk. But me picking up the force lets me go ahead and just push forward on everything, and I'm able to just really burn through my deck at this point. They are F6, so it's something that you always love to see as a jewel player, is them F6 and you just get to play your game. And I have already cast Time Walk, so I know that I have another turn after this, so I can just really put my mana out there to try and just win the game the following turn. Get rid of all these things that hurt me quite a bit. Always losing the flip and taking some damage from the ring as well. But the ring's going to allow me to really dig now that it's up to 4, and I've got the key to untap it as well. I've got jewels in my hand. I've got Karn. Find another key to untap the ring. So that's 5 more cards before I even get to PO everything back to my hand. So there is a little bit of air in the deck sometimes that you find with all the lands and everything like that, especially once you've made your land drop. We do find the Time Vault here. We have the PO in our hand to bounce back the keys that we need to bounce back and win the game from there with the Karn. And we also have a Urza Saga, which is restricted, but at the same time, 1 is usually enough, especially at this point in the game. I do choose to copy their hollow ones, and then I can sink into Stupor back their own hollow one. With unlimited turns, I can fight through those 2 Narcomoebas that are untapped, and then just win the game. So, not too big of a deal. A pretty great showcase of the deck and its power level, especially when they're F6 and you're able to just work through your pile. So, it should get the concession, and now we're on the sideboard. So, realistically, they don't really have anything except counterspells and Force of Vigors for me. So the defense grids are probably the best thing for me to bring in, besides like a Trinisphere and a Vexing Bauble. I take the Trinisphere out, and because I'm not going to get to play it on turn 1, so that's not really going to matter. This is a really strong hand here. Lets me cast either a turn 1 PO or a double turn 1 PO, or lets me cast a turn 1 ring. So I do get griefed, and they do take away my opportunity to cast a turn 1 ring, but not really able to capitalize on it. I decided not to play out any of my artifacts because they are a Force of Vigor deck, and I prefer to not lose my artifacts to their Force of Vigors right now. But now there's 0 cards in hand, which opens up the gate for me to go ahead and play this ring and draw some cards and pass the turn. So, found the Time Vault. Now all we got to do is find the key, and then we'll be on our way. Icarid Trigger doesn't really do anything for me here, or for them, I should say. They're trying to dredge, and they have 3 Bazaars. And typically when I'm playing any deck but this one, I'm like rolling my eyes and sighing really heavily because like just getting dumpstered by Bazaar is something that I'm used to. This deck doesn't really care so much as long as they don't have the Force of Vigors or Force of Wills in their hand, which they do not have. So I'm able to just kind of push forward. I've got a PO available to me. I've also got the ring that's on, so I get to at least draw 2 cards off of that. Double PO. So really happy with my situation here. Pick up a Tinker as well. So I'm able to just Time Vault and Tinker and win the game, which is fantastic. It makes it very easy for me. And I get to just chew away the ring, so I'm not taking any additional damage from the ring, and just win. So I could choose to do something different and then PO back the ring, but with them, typically if you show them that you're not going to take any damage, you can win the game from here, they'll typically quit. On to match number 3. It's a okay hand. It doesn't really do too much, but it does give me protection or eat a Force of Will from them, but it also lets me get my mana going. So if that resolves, we get to play our Grim Monolith and pass the turn. So we don't have to be explosive every single turn, but it is nice to do that from time to time. Pick up our Vault, and we're on our way. So we're playing against Lurrus, so we know there's not too much immediate danger for anything. Unfortunately, we kind of brick, and they've got a Bowmaster in play, which tends to happen from time to time. We do pick up a ring, which is fantastic. They can Spell Pierce it if they want, but I do have 2 available mana to pay for that Spell Pierce. So I don't have to worry about a Force Negation here, just need to be the Spell Pierce. So they find another Bowmaster and play it as well. Not that big of a deal. I'll go ahead and draw my extra card. We'll find the key, we'll play the key and win that. On to sideboarding, Dismembers and Hurkyl's Recalls are what I bring in. And I believe I take out this Trinisphere. Or I don't take anything out because that's just how I play Magic. So, another good hand where I get to do a turn 2 Workshop. And also have a Dismember for the Bowmaster as well. Or Frog. But I can play a basic land and at least dodge the Wasteland. If they have a Strip Mine, they have it, kind of thing. But we can at least try and play a ring on turn 2. So triple ring, that's pretty good to have, especially if they have Force Wills or Spell Pierces, which they did. And then they've got a frog, and they wastelanded me, so now I've got to kind of dismember the frog, and choosing to dismember the frog is either they have to pitch their entire hand to save it, or they have to force a will it, which should open up my hand, or should open it up for the Ancestral Recall, which is exactly what happens here. And we pick up some artifacts, and we're able to play those out, and now we're back up to 4 mana again. We have Phyrexian Metamorphosis, and we have 2 rings, so I feel pretty confident in this position, and I'm happy to be here. So, something I didn't realize I was playing against, I thought I was playing against like a just regular tempo Lurrus deck in this match, but it comes to find out that they're actually a Doomsday deck. So they Demonic Consultation to find a Consign to Memory, and they consign to memory my ring. The downside of that is it puts them at 6 cards left in their library, which means that their frog is basically turned off because they don't have enough cards in their hand to pitch all of those and put them into and attack at the same time. So we're in a little bit of a pickle here. You know, they do have a little less cards than we do, obviously, but we're just got all 3 of our rings counterspelled, so that's no fun. But we do have Phyrexian Metamorph that we can copy the Lurrus. Again, their frog is turned off, so they can't attack us with the frog. And now we can Phyrexian Metamorph, getting it Force of Will. Now down to 1 card, 3 cards in the deck. So we're still winning this match no matter what, because we're at 12 life, 3 cards. It's not enough for them to kill us with Lurrus themselves. But we do pick up a PO, and we're able to start really churning through the deck here, especially with the Tinker and everything like that. So we have the Tinker. We can tinker away what we need to, go get a jewel, and then we can start copying the jewel with the Phyrexian Metamorph. And we have the PO as well that we can bounce everything back if we want. So pick up the jewel here, and now we've got a pretty good place to be. And with another PO, we're able to just keep kind of working through the deck. And we still have Phyrexian Metamorphs in our deck as well, or in our hand. So now we're really stacked up for everything, and not too concerned about where we're at this point. So I have chosen to speed up this part. I know people like to watch jewel decks go off, but it also can be very time-consuming at the same time. So I times 2 the speed here, just so we can draw a whole bunch of cards in a limited amount of time. So they gave me the win there, and we're on to match number 4. So this is a very interesting match, and I'll go over that in just a second as we're working through this. I didn't realize I actually have the win right here in my hand. I could have just tinkered and gotten Time Vault and just key vaulted them on turn 2. But I'm big dumb and didn't do that for some reason. So I'm also playing against a jewel deck, so this could have really backfired on me in terms of actually winning here, because I didn't do it, and I thought I had enough mana to do the jewel, and I just kept counting incorrectly. I was just 1 off every single time, and that left me to where the board state is right now. Now, the plus side of me not playing the jewel out and having to pass is they couldn't Phyrexian Metamorph my jewel and then start winning from there. But we see that they PO, and I basically, at this point, I'm thinking, I've lost this match or lost this game at least, because I didn't tinker right away for the Time Vault. Again, I go for a jewel and miss, and get forced, and now I do have my own Force of Will. I'm able to pick up a ring as well and play it. I used my Tinker to get the jewel instead of, again, going to get the Time Vault, but I didn't have a Force of Will, and they PO'd, so they more than likely had a lot of Force of Wills in their hand that I thought. So I opted for a safer line here. And they're kind of doing the same thing I was doing. They're just trying to get their jewels on. I'm ready for their jewel to come back down because I know they have it. Force of Will it to make sure that they don't get a chance to go off again like they did the turn before. they also have the Tinker, which means they also have the Tinker for Key Vault as well. And they either chose not to do it or they missed it, but they're able to keep kind of rolling here. So I'm just hoping that they miss, and it looks like they kind of do in a way. So again, I should have won this, 3 turns ago, but I didn't because I missed the Key Vault. So sped this up so you can watch them draw a whole bunch of cards like we do and see what happens. So they're running out of juice here. They don't have much mana. The Academy, if they had an Academy, that definitely would be a bigger sell point, but they don't have enough to continue. So they can play their own ring or copy my jewel as well. I don't really remember what happens here. But this deck's just so cool. And normally, if I were playing a different deck, I'd be rolling my eyes at this part of it as well because they're drawing a bunch of cards and I'm not doing anything. But I just got to do the exact same thing that they're doing. They got their Time Vault and their key. So they technically could win if they have a key. But I don't believe they do here. Can't quite remember what they have. Oh, Trinisphere, which is interesting because if they have a Force of Will in their hand, they just turned off their own Force of Will, and then we pick up Key and Vault off of our ring. So it's a win. So in this particular instance, we're gonna Mind Break Trap, Force of Negations, and also bring in the Hurkyl's Recalls as well. We take out our Trinisphere and we take out our Vexing Bauble on the draw. And then we're just loaded up with the counter spells. This hand doesn't do anything. If it had blue mana, I'd 100% keep it, but it does not, so we mulligan. This becomes a much better hand for us because we can Karn or ring them, and then we also have Tinker as well. We choose not to keep the Jewel because we can't play it turn 1. We can play it turn 2, but the idea here is that we just try and land the Karn and continue on. So we're going to play our Lotus and our Tomb and try and win from here. We did pick up a Hurkyl's Recall, which is great if we need it. If we don't land this Karn. And I'm debating whether I want to play Ring or I want to play Karn, which one I want to force bait out kind of thing. Karn obviously wins the game against them. Ring helps us continue our game plan. But I do end up deciding to play the Karn because it's a game winner kind of thing, and we can Tinker the next turn if we need to. Well, we actually can't because we don't have another artifact. We opt for the Karn, and we're going for it. And they concede, and we win on to match number 5. In round 5, it's not a very good hand, so we're going to mulligan that. This is at least a turn 1 ring, so it's a pretty good start for us. Unbeknownst to us that we're playing against a Jewel player here, so they're also on the PO game, and they have a pretty fast start. Luckily, that doesn't really affect us too much there with the Vexing Bauble because we have our own Monolith, no 0 drops, so we're able to just kind of push through. So we're at least able to get a turn 1 ring into play, and unfortunately don't have a force backup even though there is a Vexing Bauble in play. They do have 1 mana to sacrifice that to immediately punish us. So no ring for us. They have a Force of Will, and they have their own Karn, which is a very difficult play pattern for us to try and win through, as all of our stuff is artifacts. Luckily, we do have a Saga, and typically Jewel decks don't play Wasteland, so we can at least try and make a game out of this with some constructs. They do have Wormcoil Engine as well as Masticore in their sideboard, just like we do. So that does make things a little bit more difficult. We do Force of Will the Wormcoil Engine, which does buy us a little bit of time, but unfortunately it's not going to be quite enough, I think, because they do get to downtick and get a Masticore as well, which then very easily handles our constructs, and we're not able to get enough mana going to offset that 5/5 first strike, which is kind of tough. If we did have something else, that'd be fine. Luckily, we're not having to deal with a Masticore and a Wormcoil Engine. I think realistically, in hindsight, probably letting the Wormcoil come down and knocking out the Masticore instead would probably have been the better play, just because it would have let us Phyrexian Metamorph the Wormcoil, and then we both would have been on a Wormcoil game, and I'd had 2 constructs up as opposed to not. So it's a tough play to try and beat this. We do have the Masticore, or we can Phyrexian Metamorph the Masticore as well. But they do get to keep discarding things and killing our shit, which isn't really fun. Masticore is a really good card in the Jewel deck as well as in the Jewel Mirror to handle, bullshit on the board that you couldn't normally deal with. So yeah, it's kind of tough. But they take out my construct here, which leaves my Masticore up. But they have I can kill their Karn luckily the following turn by pitching my own ring, and then our artifacts are at least turned back on. But being able to actually do anything around that, it's going to be kind of tough. Lodestone Golem into play, and us taking out their Masticores is the way to go. Or actually, not Masticore, but their Karn to at least turn our artifacts back on, and then we work through it from there. So, not a very fun game to try and work through, but nonetheless. Now, it's interesting, if he would have attacked for that 5 there, that would have been a smart play, I think. Actually, no, it wouldn't have, because I could have pitched my ring, blown up their Lodestone, and then attacked their Karn down and gotten a good 2-for-1. But they definitely also would have just killed me, because it's a whatchamacallit. Why would they have killed me? I'm trying to think of. Oh, because they just could have attacked again, and that'd have been that. Unbeknownst to us that we're drawing the Phyrexian Metamorph. There's no way for us to really know that. They choose to trade these off, which is smart. If I had to play the other Masticore, they wouldn't have done that. But at least I get a chance to I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's yeah, you can see what's happening on the board state here. I'm hanging on as best I can, kind of thing. So this is a Jewel matchup as well as a mid-range matchup, to say the least, kind of thing. So we both lose our Lodestones here, and now we're just in top deck mode. He does have the Time Walk, which definitely helps him more than it helps me, especially with me drawing just monoliths in general. So something I did miss is untapping my Grim Monolith at the end step, because that would have gave me enough mana to cast this Jewel twice, and they had the Sink in the Stupor. So we talked about, and I think in match 1, about how strong Sink in the Stupor is for this deck, allowing the deck to kind of just function, having more blue cards to pitch, as well as just shoving cards back into the opponent's hand, which is really good. Now we get to see them go nuts like we have before, and that's just absolutely fantastic for them to be able to go deep and draw as many cards as they're drawing. Again, seeing the ring untap with the keys and everything like that, it's just really tough. Us trying to go for another our Jewel again kind of thing. We don't have very much mana, and they find another Sink into Stupor, which really just puts us in the dirt here with them, the way they're untapping, and we call it there and go into sideboards, bringing up Hercules Recalls and Mindbreak Traps, which is ideal for us. Also, Force Negations are good. Dropping the Vecting Bauble and the Trinisphere, I think, is the way to go. Here we have a turn 1 ring, which is fantastic. No force backup, which is something that we like to have. And then we immediately get punished with it by getting it force negation. We do have a time walk, and we also have a vault, so there's a chance for us to draw another key and vault key here. But we're going to just time walk and see if we can find something worth casting. We do have the time vault, but no chance in finding anything else, I don't think. I'm just going to monolith, which we decided to play out to our detriment after this the particular turn, because they copy my monolith and then they actually are able to start really making mana, which they didn't have the ability to do to start with. So Vaccine Bauble, nice to have, but we immediately got to turn it into a different card. Find the ring, which is fantastic. But again, them having multiple counter spells with enough blue cards to back it up, we're definitely in some deep doo-doo trying to work through all of this. They do have enough mana for a ring now, or a lotus, or not a lotus, but a jewel, and they do take that, and now they have the ring as well. So yeah, it's pretty tough for us. Our chance here is just literally untap and hope to metamorph their jewel and try and go off. Another force of will from them makes it difficult for us. So yeah, they had triple force of will with a force of negation. So they had all the counter magic as well as all of the gas. So we unfortunately got beat out here pretty badly. But again, it's nice to see the showcase of the other side of the jewel that we got to take advantage of for the past 4 rounds. And thanks for watching.